So what's the thing that you don't like about Japan? So what's the thing that you don't like about Japan?
Alright, so one thing that I kind of struggle with sometimes is that it happens in a lot of shops, or maybe it's a government related thing, but when anything is out of the ordinary, it takes a long time to deal with. So as a foreigner in Japan, often things are not normal. So, for example, this is a small thing.
Yep.
If I'm registering on a website, most people's names in Japanese are 4, maybe 5 kanji. My name is super long in katakana.
Yeah.
So a lot of websites, I can't fit my name in.
Okay.
And so we have to call and say, hey, my name doesn't fit in the website. What should I do?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, I'm not sure. Let me ask my manager.
Okay.
And that person asks their manager, and that person asks their manager. And then like an hour later, the problem is resolved.
Wow, too long.
But it's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And it takes time to work out.
Yeah.
Another thing is like at the bank, for example.
Yep.
Like I forgot my my password one time. My what is it? The PIN code, and I don't have a hanko, a stamp.
Oh, you mean like Japanese stamp?
Yeah,
of course, because you don't have that Japanese
have
name.
one.
So right, yeah.
And so they said, well, you can't change your PIN code without a stamp,
Hanko ne?
without a hanko.
Right.
And I was like, well, but I didn't use one to make it. I signed to make it.
Yeah.
But they said, no, the rule is you need the stamp.
All right.
And so I can't change my password.
Okay.
And then, in that story, I went and I made a stamp that just says, Burado. That's it.
in katakana.
In katakana. I made a stamp, I came back to the bank and I said, look, I've got my hanko,
And they
I've got
said,
my
like,
stamp.
okay, it's fine.
And no, then they got the paperwork out and
Yeah.
I stamped it. And they said, but this isn't the same as your original.
What?
And I said, I know, because I didn't have one.
What?
I know. And then they said, oh,
Original? What do you mean, like?
when I signed up for the bank,
Yeah.
I signed.
Yeah.
But then the next time I used a hanko, so
Yeah.
they couldn't verify it.
Of course.
But apparently you need a hanko to change your PIN code.
Yeah.
And so they didn't know what to do.
What?
They couldn't help me.
Okay. So you mean like when you made an account, you signed it. You
I
didn't
signed it.
like do the
I didn't use a stamp.
All right. So it doesn't. Of course, it doesn't match.
Of course it doesn't match. But the rule is you need to have a stamp to change your PIN code. And so I couldn't change my PIN code.
You can't change it.
No, I never changed it.
All right. So you can't still.
Oh no, this was my old account. This was a couple of years ago.
All right. So there was no
I
money.
closed the account.
Alright, that's...
That happened.
Wow. Moving on. Wow.
Moving on.
That's so stupid だね。本当に聞いとって嫌になってくわ。Okay, what's the next thing?
The next thing that I dislike is something I haven't experienced personally, but the people around me have. And it's something that has upset a lot of the people around me. And this is police targeting of foreigners.
Police targeting foreigners.
So what I've heard stories from people around me is that because they've been foreigners, they've been singled out by police in particular incidences.
Singled out, okay.
Singled out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
for example, a good friend of mine, he was going to the supermarket one day. He was checked by the police twice.
Okay.
In one walk. And he was checked not only by asking many questions, but also they asked to see inside his bag, inside his pocket, that they checked everything. And there was no problem. But that happened and he was, a little bit shaken up.
Yeah.
He was like, oh wow, that was scary.
Yeah.
And then maybe 5-10 minutes later, it happened again. And maybe it's a coincidence.
Yeah,
but
pretty rare.
It's unlikely to be checked twice in the same day by police.
Yeah.
And that's not the only case. That someone else I was talking to recently was also checked by police. And I didn't know, but apparently it's illegal or there's a problem with having someone else's credit card in your wallet.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure about this. He had a friend's credit card in his wallet.
Okay.
That his friend lent him. The friend knew about it.
Yep.
And the police arrested him.
your friend.
Yeah.
Oh.
They arrested him for having his friend's card because they thought he stole it.
Okay. Yeah.
And that happened.
Yeah.
And also another good friend of mine, he was involved in an accident.
Mm-hmm.
All it was that a tyre marked a car.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a complex story,
Mm-hmm.
but in this case, the police made it sound like it was my friend's fault.
Yeah.
And then the other person in the other car apparently went to the hospital and pretended to be hurt. And
okay.
There was video footage of the so-called accident.
Yeah.
And it was very clear that no one got hurt.
Yeah.
But the other person wanted to claim insurance. And so in this case, the judge, the police, nobody believed my friend. And even though they could see the video, when nothing happened, the cars didn't move. There's no mark, there's no dent.
Wow.
But they believed the Japanese guy.
Yeah.
And it was awful. My friend still doesn't have any closure on this case because they haven't given him an answer yet. And this has been going on for months that they haven't got back to him. And I think that's outrageous that they just believe the Japanese guy even though there was a lot of evidence that showed that there was really no accident.
Yeah.
There's no way that person could have been hurt.
Wow.
And that sort of thing really makes it difficult to be a foreigner in Japan because we're scared that if we do the wrong thing, am I going to end up in jail?
Yeah.
Like if I take your card,
Yeah.
if I'm delivering you your wallet
Yeah.
and the police catch me,
Yeah.
do they think I've stolen it?
Yeah.
That's scary, you know.
Alright.
So I think there's a problem there in the legal system. But
Okay.
yeah. I think like, in that case, it would be nice to have some more consideration, have them say, oh, like, maybe you don't know this, but it's actually bad to do this.
Yeah.
You know, there's a difference in intention.
Yeah.
If you intend to do something bad and you know it's bad, you should get the fine. You should get in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you don't intend for it to be bad,
Yeah.
I think there ought to be more consideration. And as a foreigner, it's difficult to know sometimes. And like me, I didn't think it was a problem. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I feel like often isn't really considered.
Yeah.
You know.
確か
Yeah.
に。難しいね。
Yeah.
えぐいね。
Anyway.
えぐい。
Should we move on to the next one?
Alright.
Alright.
The last thing you don't like. Why don't you like Japan, please?
Listen, I like Japan, but I think everyone can agree with me, Japanese, non-Japanese, it's too crowded.
Like, especially in Tokyo.
It's so crowded.
Right.
Like, there's days where my legs are tired, all I want to do is sit down. And it's 7 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm at Tokyo Station or at Shinjuku Station or whatever.
Yeah.
No sitting down.
Yeah.
And especially around Corona as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
it's very crowded.
Mm-hmm.
And the lines. Like, if I want to go into a restaurant and there's 20 people waiting,
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'm not going there.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently I wanted to go to Kurazushi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we went there and I was like, oh, great. Next opening is 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah, everything is just so
2
busy,
hours,
it's crowded, and there's places like that back home, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it is especially crowded here. What do you think about it being crowded? How do you deal with it?
How do I deal with it?
Yeah.
Well, I also don't like the crowded place.
Yeah.
Like, it depends. Like, if it's a live house, for example.
That's
if you go
different.
to it's okay. Like, we're sharing kind of the fun time. We're just screaming, we're pushing around. It's fun. It's okay.
Yeah.
But when it comes to taking trains or taking buses or going to restaurant, it's shit. I would say. Well, I mean, too many people sometimes. I love this place, and as you said, especially now with the corona, we don't really like to be in a crowded place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And especially when you're in a rush as well, trying to get somewhere.
Yeah.
That's especially frustrating.
Yeah.
And the one thing that annoys me a lot, maybe this is contradicted because I was a tourist in Japan at one point looking around, but the Shibuya crossing, right? When there's a lot of tourism, everyone's there with a camera and they walk so slowly and I'm sure I did that once, so disclaimer. It's so frustrating. You're trying to walk and you're like, oh, just get out of the way. And it's frustrating. There's not enough space to get around that. At least in Australia, if someone's standing there with a camera, you just walk around because it's a bit more spacious. But here, it's especially difficult. It's crowded.
It's crowded. It's crowded. I know. I would just want to get out of this place as soon as possible. はい。ということで、今回、オーストラリア人の友達ブラッドと、外国人から見た日本の好きなところとか、日本のあまり好きではないところっていうのをご紹介してきました。で、会話の中で結構使えるフレーズとか表現とかもあったと思うので、ぜひこのお話を聞いてですね、勉強もしていただけたらというふうに思います。で、また次回の動画でお会いしましょう。じゃあね。